My daughter made me cry for the first time in my life. I, 28 female, have a 13-year-old daughter. I had her when I was 15 after I was raped by someone who I thought was my friend. My daughter doesn't know this and I decided not to tell her. Keep it in mind. Well, I also have a sister, 35 female. She's honestly the best sister I could ever ask for. Now for an explanation. I was picking my daughter up from school and she seemed like she was in a bad mood, so I wanted to do something that would cheer her up. I asked her if she wanted to go to the mall or go out to the Chinese restaurant she loves. She told me no because my sister had promised to take her to the movies, so I told her I'd drive her to the movies. She then told me no again and to drop her off at my sister's house, so I agreed. 3 hours later, she came home and was happier now. I asked if the movies were fun, but she just ignored me and went to her room instead. I thought this was weird because she normally always tells me how fun the movies are or whenever she goes somewhere with my sister. So I called her down for dinner and she came down and walked right past me to grab her jacket and shoes. Obviously confused, I asked her where she was going. She said she was going to get Mexican food with my sister. I told her I had already made dinner and she got mad at me and told me to leave her alone because she didn't want to eat something a dirty slut made. I asked her what she meant by that, and she said I was gross for losing my virginity at such a young age and that she was grossed out even looking at me. She called me a disgusting whore and slammed the door and left. This honestly broke my heart since I had gone to therapy for so long and to try and cope with what happened. But as a result, my own daughter basically slut-shamed me for having my innocence taken away. I honestly just lost my appetite and just went to my room. I have been crying ever since and my heart honestly just completely feels sad. I think my sister told her because I planned on telling her until she was older. I feel betrayed and hurt and don't know what to do. She knocked on my room door but I didn't open it. I mean, how do I even approach this?
I steal hermit crabs from souvenir shops. You know those hermit crabs they sell as pets to tourists in coastal souvenir shops? The ones with shells that have badly painted cartoon characters on them? The ones that come free with the purchase of a little plastic carrier with a thin layer of brightly colored gravel, some flake food in a shallow water dish, and a sea sponge in it. Maybe your parents let you get one while you were on vacation as a child because it's such a simple little pet, and maybe you lived for a few weeks or months or even a couple of years in that little plastic box before you noticed a bad smell and found it dead. And maybe you shrugged it off because it's just a little crab and they don't live long, right? Those crabs have a lifespan of 30 plus years. Those crabs are highly social and need to be kept in groups. Those crabs require air that's around 80% humidity or higher in order to breathe, and kept at around 26 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Those crabs need separate pools of both fresh and salt water that are deep enough to fully submerge themselves in so they can regulate their internal salinity. They need large enclosures with deep substrate to burrow down so they can molt. They need a varied and nutrient-rich diet with fresh fruits and vegetables. The little crab you got as a souvenir in the same place selling custom airbrush shirts and shark tooth necklaces died a slow and miserable death. It's a miracle it made it that far to begin with, as all hermit crabs sold in these shops and major pet retailers are collected from the wild. They have their natural shells broken off their bodies with a hammer, so they have no choice but to wear some kiddishy garbage with Spider-Man painted on it. Roughly 50% don't survive the process and no one seems to care. I care. This post was actually taken off a Reddit recap from r/confessions as one of the most clicked on stories this year. It's Reddit recap time. You can check yours out by clicking the little blue whale on the top right corner of your app. You'll also be able to see what communities took up most of your time. For me, my top 3 interests were television, gaming, and philosophy. But the most important thing that it comes down to in your Reddit recap is to find out if you're team dog or team cat. Can you guys guess what I am? I'm of course, neither. I'm too wholesome to pick sides, so I love them both equally. Check out your Reddit recap today and let me know, are you team dog or are you team cat? Now, back to the story. Several years ago, I was in one of these shops and saw hundreds of hermit crabs kept in a bare, unheated, open-air cage with only a shallow dish of water. I could smell them before I saw them, dead little bodies rotting in their shells and limbs strewn out. Children were encouraged to pick them up and play with them and beg their parents for one because they're hardly more complicated than a pet rock, right? If I bought some of them, I could give them a chance to live, but in doing so, I'd be supporting a cruel industry and funding the death of so many more. I'm not sure how long I paced around the shop with my moral dilemma before a sudden realization hit me. I have pockets. As casually as I could, I picked out a couple sickly crabs and gently put them in my pocket. My heart was racing, but no one stopped me when I walked out the door. And so started my life of crime. I don't do it often, but if I'm in town with one of those souvenir shops, I'll pop in and jailbreak a few hermit crabs. I gravitate towards the weak ones and those missing limbs. They're on their way out, but I want them to have a chance or to at least die as comfortably as they can. The ones that have pulled through are all healthy and active now. A colony of contraband crabs.
Am I the asshole for not paying the pet sitter because they lost our cat? We hired our neighbor's 16-year-old son to take care of our dog and cat while we were out of town. He was supposed to let the dog out twice a day and keep an eye on the food and water. The cat is an indoor cat and he was to feed her. 2 days in, he lost our keys, so I had to give him the garage code so he could get in. We got home after 4 days and the cat was nowhere to be found. I called him and asked when the last time was he saw the cat. He told me that morning. Well, we knew the cat was gone and checked our security cameras. We saw her at 5:30 a.m. on the camera outside, so at a minimum she had been out since the day before. I can see the history of when the garage opens and closes in our app, and he hasn't been there that early. I had also checked her litter box and it was pretty clean, so she was probably gone for 2 nights. When I told him the cat was gone, he did come over and offer to go look for her and took off in his car. Am I the asshole for not paying the pet sitter because they lost our cat? We saw him come back on our camera with a grocery store bag, so not sure if he actually went looking for her or not like he claimed. We left the door open overnight and she did come home and is fine. There was a good chance she couldn't have, as we live 1 street over from open space where a pack of coyotes frequent, and she's only 8 pounds, so a lot of other animals could have gotten her too. Here's the main part. We decided not to pay him. It's a pay what you want agreement, and given that we now need to rekey the house and he lost our cat, we didn't feel that he took his responsibilities seriously. And the bigger the mistake, the bigger the consequence. You may say, well, any job would have to still pay you. Yes, but they can also deduct or charge you for the cost of damages, which in this case will be more than what we would have paid him, and we aren't asking for it, just not paying him. Is this wrong? Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter's half-sister to spend Christmas with us? My ex-husband and I got divorced 7 years ago. We share custody of our 13-year-old daughter. He got married and has a 5-year-old daughter with his now wife. His daughter would spend time with my daughter regularly. They adore each other, but she doesn't come to my house and they rarely meet up there. His wife has been diagnosed with cancer and has started treatment recently. The other day he came to drop our daughter off and asked to speak to me. He talked about his wife's circumstances, then how his family won't be able to have a Christmas celebration this year. He said it wasn't fair for his daughter and asked if I could include her in my family's celebration. He pointed out how the girls will have a great time together, bonding and making memories, but I said I was sorry, but my family's traditional celebration is a sacred thing and I do not feel comfortable including anyone else. Plus, it'd be awkward having her in my home. Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter's half-sister to spend Christmas with us? He said that his daughter may not be family to me, but she sure is to her half-sister. He asked me to stop and think about what's best for the kids here. I suggested he take his daughter to spend Christmas with her grandparents. He said his parents and him are NC and tried to cut the conversation short, but he stopped me and started going on about how cruel it was for me to decline to include his daughter, who's already having a hard time adjusting. I saw that he was beginning to cry, so I stepped back and said I was no longer feeling comfortable having this conversation. I asked him to leave and he did, but still texted me asking me to agree to let his daughter come spend Christmas, even offered that he stays away if that'll make me less uncomfortable. I said no, and now he's calling me selfish and unfeeling. A point worth mentioning here, and that is my family are going to attend, and they said that they too will not feel comfortable in this situation. Thus, I said it'd be awkward.
I'm an asshole for sleeping naked because my roommate's girlfriend keeps waking me up. I'm 19 male and I have a roommate, and well, he has a girlfriend and we'll call her Elle. Since they've been seeing each other and when she's been staying around, she has walked in on me and pulled the covers off as a joke many times. She's also walked in on me and my girlfriend, which was the final straw, obviously. My roommate is doing nothing about this and saying I can't control her. A few days ago, my girlfriend was in her flat and so was Elle. My girlfriend has been getting pissed at Elle for walking in on us, obviously. And I told her to sleep naked and so she will stop probably. At 6, me and my girlfriend were sleeping and Elle busted in through the door and saw us butt naked. She screamed like she saw a murder scene. And my roommate walked in on us and told us that we should have been wearing clothes. I told him that she needs to learn about privacy first, and he told us that we were acting very childish. We didn't care if we were acting childish, but she needed to know that it's weird, especially walking in on people. So, I'm just wondering, am I the asshole in this situation? Because obviously my roommate thinks I was.
Am I the asshole for asking my pregnant girlfriend to pay for or replace my meal because she ate all of it? I've been with my girlfriend for going on 2 years. Before we ever met, she and her sister had been working on her being a surrogate for her sister and her sister's husband. She's staying with them for now, but she comes over to my place frequently to spend time with me when she's free. It's not bad, but either she raids my kitchen or she complains nothing looks good and wanted me to keep some of her for sure cravings on hand. She got hungry and wanted a snack and came out with a container I put my leftovers in and goes, "Can I have some of this?" I told her yes. She came back with the plate and she didn't take some of it. She took all of it and put all kinds of things on it so we couldn't even share. I told her that I said she could have some and she just ate all of what I intended to have for dinner, so I asked her to either send me money to pay for it or she could make the drive and get me another order. She didn't want to drive that far and she didn't think she should have to pay me anything.